Check, check, check. Can you guys hear me okay? So welcome, everybody. This is the CCS VIR 1903, Scaling BYOD and VDI across the enterprise with an optimal application experience. Cisco wrote the tagline. That sounds good. My name is Brian Kachel, and I'm the Director of Global Network Services for Quintiles Transnational. Oop, hang on a sec. My button's not working. Okay, so why we're here today. What we've done, or what my team has been successful in doing over the last really 18, 24 months, is deploying just over 12,000 virtual desktops across the globe in literally over just under 3 years, and going from having no BYOD platform or offering to a full self-registration BYOD implementation for employees in really just 1 year. So we've had a rapid deployment of virtual desktops, and you'll see later on in the presentation what BYOD has done for the acceleration of that in really just the last 12 months or so. So today, sorry if I'm standing in the way, I'll do a brief intro to Quintiles, who we are, what the landscape looks like, where we're located, tell you our BYOD method, and take you through what a self-registration looks like. A little bit of our VDI story. It's going to be high level. I'm a Cisco network guy, so Global Network Services. There's another group of folks that support desktop virtualization and Citrix, but we'll speak to it high level. The real big important one for us, the importance of WAS and what that does for our network holistically, and specifically what it does for desktop virtualization. And then any questions you have. Interactive. The slide is probably, the deck's maybe 30 minutes or so. So if you have any questions along the way, just feel free to ask, and we'll make it interactive. I don't like the wires. So about Quintiles. Quintiles is the largest, I got to read the kilo. We're a public company now, so I've got to be careful how I say it. Quintiles is the largest contract global pharmaceutical research organization, and we effectively deliver drugs. We're responsible for all phases in the development of the drug life cycle. Quintiles has had something to do with all of the top 50 blockbuster drugs that are on the market right now, and have so for the last 10 years or so. The company's in a growth spurt. We're about 27,000 employees now. I think it's actually higher, but that's the public number we say. 127 offices around the globe. A little bit of the landscape you can see. So again, you know, this is a flat picture, but you'll certainly appreciate places like Australia, India, South Africa, South America rather. And these little guys here, this is my network team. So one of the other reasons why we're here is that I think this is a relatively large network. I've been with the company for 16 years, by the way. I started out as a network engineer, and now I'm the manager of the group. But I don't have a really large team. So we support all things LAN, WAN, wireless, firewall, internet, remote access, F5, acceleration, audio conferencing, video conferencing, anything with the Cisco brand. We are the Cisco bigots at the company. And I do wear this shirt to the office quite a bit and get bolted for that. But my team, I've got a staff of about 22, 23 around the globe, and we support all those services. The things we're talking about today, those three technologies, it's really these little guys. I've got 4 engineers in the US, 3 in Europe, 1 in Bangalore, and 1 in Australia. And we support all those things for all these people. One of the ways we've gotten efficient is just really by adhering to standards and being real strict on keeping standards. We pick certain models, we have an architecture, and we don't allow the company to say, we want to spend less, we want to buy a smaller switch. We really try to maintain an architecture and not stray too far from it. Otherwise, we can't support it, and we know that. But we also know if we can't support it, they'll yell at us. So we fight back with the company on trying to spend a little bit more money in investing in the platform and the models that we feel comfortable with. So it's very standardized across the whole network. I don't think I had anything else on that one. So this is an interesting one. I built this deck a couple weeks ago, and I have been branding for at least 2 years, 3 years. I've been saying to people at my company, the network is an intelligent platform, right? Because we do all these cool things like QoS, RSVP, WAN acceleration, now identity services engine, where we're giving you access to things based on who you are, what you're trying to get to and what device. It's an intelligent network. I'm lobbying saying the network is a platform. Went to the keynote this morning, and Chambers stole my thunder because he's up there talking about the network as a platform, the intelligent network, and I'm like, huh. So I'm thinking maybe I just read this somewhere on Cisco's website at some point. It's sticking in, so good job, account team. By the way, this is my account team up here, Justin Taylor, Paul Tilley. When we get a little bit further in, I'm going to keep this high level from a management perspective. How many engineers in the room versus managers? Engineers? And then management? Okay, so a couple pictures, diagrams on Identity Services Engine. Justin will be able to help out and answer those if we have any questions. The reason I put this up here, obviously we know who it is, think differently. As I said, been with the company for 16 years, so was a spring chicken when I started out. Tended to be one of those more aggressive type people from New Jersey, and just, I don't want to say I like taking risks, but we've taken some intelligent risks. We like to introduce change, and we like to play with toys. We are geeks and engineers at the end of the day, so we really have for the last 5 years just been driving change by saying, listen, just because we've done something this way doesn't mean we need to do it that way tomorrow. Things like BYOD, when we started it a year ago, there wasn't really an efficient method for us to offer self-registration, but we wanted to get something out anyway. So we came up with a manual process and we put it out there. But the point of this is just with the network being the intelligent platform, we tend to instill or take the fear out of folks by just saying, let us do something differently. You'll appreciate the end result. And we almost have to convince people to let us make change. So our network team, we're all about introducing change for the benefit of the company, obviously. Okay. So BYOD benefits. You've probably gone to sessions on BYOD. These are pretty straightforward. But for us, it's just that. It's literally the ability to allow anybody bring in whatever device they want and use it for work. That's it. It's simple. The consumerization of IT, that was a big management buzzword last year. I'm not hearing that much anymore. Mobility, certainly when I travel, I did take the heavy laptop, but if I'm just going for a 1 or 2 day meeting, I'd love to just take my iPad and know that I can still get access to Outlook or Intranet, approve some expense reports, whatever. So mobility is huge, especially in and out of the office. Just carry whatever device, even my iPhone I'll use to hop on and approve an expense report. Cost savings. I argue this one. Management above me, certainly CIO, VPs, those folks, let's do BYOD. It's going to save us tons of money, right? We won't buy laptops. Okay, from his perspective, perhaps. From my perspective, I'm writing out cars to get funding so I can buy infrastructure to offer these things to the employees. I think BYOD is cool because I want people to use the network. IT should be an enabler. We want to get people on, give them access, happy employees, less trouble tickets for us. We all get to keep our jobs. But I think we're in that transition bell curve where we are investing. We've just deployed wireless pervasively across the organization. We've had to invest in Identity Service Engine. So we invest in the platform to offer all of this intelligent network. So right now, I don't think it's saving us money. I think the concept was we can extend the lifetime of laptops by making them virtual desktops. But we're still doing both in parallel. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But right now, I think we're just at that transition point. As BYOD is becoming more accepted, it may become a cost saver. Just right now, I think it's transitional for us. So productivity, and like I said, happy employees, job satisfaction, IT is an enabler, so that's what we should be doing for them. Challenges. Obviously, I'll show a good picture on the next slide, too. Now, we're sort of devil's advocate where we've got a bunch of people bringing in devices, and when we do testing for, say, employer registration, all right, we'll test the obvious ones, iPad, iPhone, iOS, and the different versions that are out. Apple Win 718. Something's going to come out. We haven't tested Google Chrome yet. Maybe that operates the web redirect differently. But what we notice, people will come in, and because we're offering BYOD, people just expect that IT are supporting it. Well, you told us about it. Obviously, I can get full support on it. Why can't I get on? Why is it slow? Why does it disconnect when I'm in this building? So we do find that we have to support it, and it does cause us a little bit more overhead. But again, I think ultimately that it's rob Peter to pay Paul. So at some point, we can spend less time supporting the managed desktop, and we'll spend our time supporting BYOD. But right now, it's two parallel streams, so a little bit more overhead for us. I'll tell the story about how we got to self-registration, Identity Services Engine, BYOD. That's a screenshot from Aaron Wolin's deck on Identity Service Engine. We worked with Aaron a year and a half ago when we first started with Identity Services Engine. I'm all tangled up in this thing already. And here's how it started for us. So our CIO specifically would come in and say, look, IT guys, why is it when I go to Starbucks, it's easier to get on their network than it is in our office? It should be just easy for our employees. It should be simple, right? I get that. We were still in the delivery phase of deploying global wireless, but we did have a guest network. But like most traditional guest networks, username, password expires in a day. I had a whole fleet of executives that were just getting all these guest username and passwords, and they're using the guest network. So that was the complaint. It's just, Brian, you've got to offer employees an easy way to get on the network. So I get it. OK. So we introduced BYOD version 1. And at that time, self-registration was not available. So in the early version, it was something that was on the roadmap. But I didn't have the luxury of telling the CIO, hey, we've got to wait 6 months for this to get worked out. So wanted to do something right away. And as I said, back to the taking educated risks, we offered BYOD through manual registration. And all we did was MAC address off. It worked out very well for the users. And all we offered to them was internet access and access to FlexDesk, which is our virtual desktop offering. The problem with it was manual registration. So you bring in a device, and it's like, OK, I see the network. Get on, auth fail. Well, what do I got to do about this? Call the service desk. Hello, I'd like to register my device. And they say, well, can I have your MAC address? What's that? I don't walk them through, give them a MAC address. And then also in the early version of Identity Services Engine, I'll just call it ICE from now on, I couldn't tag a username to that MAC address. So now I've got this database of MAC addresses growing. So it wasn't going to scale very well, but I had to get something out there. I had to get BYOD out there. A lesson learned there also, we did name that SSID BYOD. That's it. Not a good idea when you've got multi-tenancy offices where other companies might be offering BYOD or some other service because there's no identity to it. Back in the early days of wireless, I think most of the engineers will agree, from a security perspective, you named it Blizzard or Apple's, something phony to thwart the evil hackers. But I think most of us know SSID is not any type of security in wireless. So we didn't think it was, at that time, we just said, get it, that would be BYOD. Very successful for 6 months, but we needed the next better thing which was empower the employees, let them self-register. So in version 2, what we did was we called it Quintiles BYOD. Very important in places like Asia and New York City, where you've got, you open up a list and you see 600 SSIDs. So we called it Quintiles BYOD, and now it's a secure network. So that first one was an open network, MAC address authentication. All you got access to through ACLs was internet and desktop virtualization. Eventually, we did open up Exchange, and that's when IT security started poking and prodding with us, saying, look, more people want access to voice, Jabber app, WebEx, video conferencing. If we're going to open up all these ports to the inside of our network, we've got to make this secure. So we said, OK, let's re-engineer. Back to Aaron and his lab, and we came up with a self-registration model. And we're basically doing PeepOff now to get on the network, and we're also self-registering them through the portal. And that's for us to capture their info. And at some point, we'll offer them that portal, too, so you can go in and you can log in with your username and seal your devices, rename them, delete them. We're limited to 5 right now. So that's the evolution of why we got wireless or BYOD and how we're offering it. What I'll do now is take you through. I used an iPhone as an example. I was going to do a live lab demo, but I was afraid it would terribly bomb. I had plans to bring in CVO, tunnel back to the network, and show you on mine, but I'll show you in slides. Basically, the 4 screenshots or screens that you see when you self-register. So you're an employee. You come in. Oh, no, good stat here. We just did the PR on this in January. It's been available for probably 6 months, maybe, at some sites. It's pervasive now. It's at all 120 locations, as is wireless. We didn't do the PR campaign on it and notify employees until maybe 2 or 3 months ago. But because it's simple, we had about 3,000 to 4,000 registrations in the first 60 days. People were just figuring out. They'd click on it, username, password, let me try, and it would work. So we realized, all right, it's simple enough. This is going to be easily adopted. So we'll go through just what it looks like on an iPhone. well, I'm not touching this thing. I have a remote in my hand. So phase one, obviously, go to settings. Will's one of my engineers. He did the screenshots for me here. Select Quintiles BYOD. So we did away with that. Here's an issue we ran into. So back to early adopters. I said I wanted to get something out very early in the life cycle, and now I've got a bunch of executives that are using that. I can't take it away because IT gets a lot of slack when we change things too quickly. So that was literally a year ago, and now I've got this new one. So I'm running 2 networks right now, and we're watching the drop-off. We're no longer offering registration for the first one with the MAC addresses, and we just, now we promote you do the self-registration. But I do keep that one in parallel just for the time being. We'll phase it out through the next 6 months or something. So click on the network. iPhone is going to pop up for username and password, and then you're going to get a certificate, except same thing on a Windows box or an Apple. I think we have a way to get around that, but we haven't done the certs yet. We'll cover it. We'll cover it when we cover it. We're about delivery. We wanted to get it out there. So that puts you on the network. So now you've got a secure connection to the network, and you're going to see the portal. And this is where it's a little bit, I don't want to say annoying. Some users have complained, why am I logging in twice? Well, think about it conceptually. Your first logon is native iOS. You're logging onto the network to get a secure connection to the network. So now you're on PEEP connection, but you're getting redirected right away to this Identity Services Engine portal. So same thing. You're logging in again to Active Directory, and this is to put you into the My Devices portal. So it's captured your MAC address. Give it a description. Call whatever you want. Hit done. Boom. You're on the network. Now, you don't do that again. So you go anywhere on the globe. ICE is central to the data centers. So back in that network design, it's really 2 data centers, 3 data centers that we have ICE servers in, all 120 sites or spokes connecting to those. So you go anywhere in the world, this works, and you never do this again. And that's what our CIO wanted us to deliver to the employees. Just go ahead, take a retina scan, fingerprint me, do something one time, but then leave me alone. Now, obviously, if you change your password, you'll have to not do this part again, but you will have to get on the network. iPhone will pop up. Windows box will pop up. And we have videos and PowerPoints and all that sort of stuff on the internet to help people figure that out if they can't figure it out. Not to say that my user base isn't very technical, but sometimes they have issues. So how are we doing it all? Through Identity Services Engine. ICE does a lot of things. Right now, we're only scratching the surface with what we can do with it. I do have a vision to really offer one network. This is all through wireless, obviously. We're doing some things with Identity Services Engine on the wired port, where historically, I shouldn't say this on camera, historically, you could walk into an office, plug in, and you're on the network. Now, you can't get to certain things that are protected by AD, but you're on the network effectively. So what we're just starting to do now is lock down conference rooms where you plug in, okay, I know your machine, you're a trusted asset, I see your cert, fine, full network access. You plug in with a new machine. Don't know your machine, redirect, you've authenticated, semi-trusted network, we'll give you internet, and we'll give you FlexDesk. Cool. Or you bring in something, and I don't know you at all, well, you just guest portal. That's all you get. So that's the goal for the wired ports. On the wireless side, what I want to get to, I call it my 2 to 3 year strategy. One SSID. So today I've got Quintiles, which is my managed asset, WLAN. I've got Quintiles Guest and Quintiles BYOD. At some point, I want to get to just single SSID and then give you access to what you need access to based on who you are and what device. So that's the roadmap. If you're interested in Identity Services Engine, this guy, Aaron Woland, he's the encyclopedia on ICE. Brilliant speaker. He's got a couple sessions here, and I just highly recommend either the book or go see a session. And TechWise TV, I haven't done a skit with TechWise on ICE, but Rob Boyd's got a good 4-minute high-level management for the managers in here on what ICE does and why it's beneficial to you and the company. So here's a real high-level design on what it looks like for us. Again, hub and spoke type of network. This thing is hub and spoke type of network. There's a bunch of PDPs and PAPs and I don't know, a bunch of engineers in the room. I've got Justin here. So any questions on how ICE is actually delivered, implemented from a technical perspective, or are we all comfortable with it's just ICE? There's a couple servers that kind of make it up, login server, management server, auth servers, and it's sort of a cluster of tools that kind of operate to offer you profile and posturing and authentication.
Do you guys use the NAC client on the wired network?
No, we don't. And it's one of the things I'm trying to avoid. NAC client would make it very easy to profile and posture, but we're trying to get away with using things like DHCP headers. We're trying to pick up a name of the box. We thought about using the certs that are on them. I think that's where we're going now, where we're going to use the cert that's there, and that's about as far as we can go. So we can't posture you, but we can profile you. So we can figure out that you're a managed asset based on your cert, and then we can give you access based on that. Anything beyond that to profile, to posture, I confused the two. You got to use the NAC agent. So not there yet. And as part of my vision and seeing where we're going with BYOD, I do think the managed asset will become less pervasive. So we'll try and avoid the use of the NAC agent if we can.
Are you using any MDM tool?
So question is, any MDM tool? Yes, we are. Two different silos in global IT for my company. So I manage the network, the platforms, all things IP and Cisco. We are using Ironport? Mobile Iron. Air Defense? I think it's Mobile Iron. So we are, but it's a big disconnect. I shouldn't say that. It's a disconnect where I'm just offering network access. So I'm the enabler. I want to get you on the network. And I don't care if you're bringing in your corporate iPhone or just your own, bring your own iPhone. For the folks that do have company-sponsored phones, they do get Mobile Iron, and we just do that to wipe them, basically, if they get lost. That was a big challenge for us, too. A year ago, they wouldn't let me authenticate you on an iPhone because they didn't want you typing credentials on that phone. God forbid you lose the phone in the taxi. Everybody in IT security felt the taxi driver's a hacker. He's going to pick up the phone. He's going to get your username and password, and he's going to hack the universe and bring down our network. I think that risk is minimal, but that was the concern. A year later, though, I guess just as BYOD becomes more pervasive in people's environments in the enterprise, it's a limited risk we're willing to live with. So at least now I can authenticate you down the network. A huge benefit for me to deliver these types of solutions.
But today they're not integrated. The MDM's not integrated inside. That is something we're looking at with the other groups. Are you integrating this solution with your own employees? Do you like contractors?
Another good question. So no, we give them guests. So the next thing that's being worked on, it's being delivered in the next week or two. Oh, I'm sorry. Question was, are we doing anything for anybody other than employees, for contractors or guests? Or actually, I'm putting guests in your question. And the answer is, this is just for employees. We offer guests for everybody else. So guests today, we're still leveraging WCS to create the accounts and push those accounts to the anchor controllers, manual process. But tomorrow, it's beta tested, it's piloted. I should have brought slides on it, but I didn't. Same thing, so self-registration. And in about a month, we're going to let all employees, just like at Cisco, create guest accounts. So we'll send out the PR materials. Here you go. Stop calling the service desk. Now you can create guest accounts for any guest or contractors that you bring in. So that's the next evolution for ICE. Like I said, we're just scratching the surface with ICE. It's so powerful, and it's one of the things that's going to help. It's delivering the intelligent network. It's got a lot of capabilities. Any more questions on this one?
Yeah, is this product available to us, and does it work across subdomains?
So question is the product available to us, non-Cisco customer?
Yes.
And second part about subdomains?
Yes.
So yes, ICE, Identity Service Engine, shipping for over a year. They're on 1.1 now, 1.2 is coming soon, so it's a mature and stable product. I can definitely speak to that. And I don't know the part about subdomains. Justin, help me out.
Authentication, yeah. Because we have subdomains for part of the city.
Yeah. See me afterwards. Let me write it down, and I'll see Aaron later on tonight. I'll ask Aaron, the super smart ICE guy. Any more? Okay. So that's BYOD for us. We'll move on to virtualization. So this was our PR campaign for what we call FlexDesk. And this was literally the ability to deliver a new desktop on old hardware in the cloud, the private cloud. So more buzzwords. We love giving buzzwords to our management. So this is kind of what we sent out because a lot of our users don't understand that there's even a data center or a network. They just think everything works. I'm sure you guys get that. So I just included it as a little bit of a cute, this is really what we sent out. We made posters of this and emails and on the intranets, and that's how we told people they were going to get virtual desktop. So again, it was part to extend the lifetime of some aging equipment, and then also what it's turned into now is a mobility tool. So we offer this to employees just as a mechanism to get to the network from whatever device you want. So VDI and BYOD are kind of happening in parallel. And we'll hit that transition point at some time where we will cut the cord on managed assets. We do have about 4,000 or 5,000 hard and fast virtual clients. Like, you have no choice. You don't have a laptop. You've just been delivered a VXC or a WISE, or you have an old piece of hardware, and you can only get access through virtual desktop. For everyone else, it's an option. It's an auxiliary, and people love it. And you'll see a trend that's helped enable that in a second. So the flat slide, I should have put this earlier on so you can see the network. That's most of the sites. This one's a little bit old. But hub and spoke, data center up here, that's Raleigh, data center in Dublin, and then we have a few other internet points of presence. But what's the problem with a big network for some place like us where we're centralizing all these services? The further you get from the data center, the worse the user experience is going to get, right? So common sense, latency, speed of light, we can't change that. But one of the things we can do is improve it. And the way we've improved that, especially with Citrix and FlexDesk for us, people who are 350 milliseconds away, it works. But if you get some congestion and it peaks up to 400, you'll notice your keystrokes. It takes a couple seconds sometimes, and you don't want to type a whole email doing that. It gets frustrating. So we had to improve that. I'll tell a little story here. Cisco shop, obviously. We had WAS deployed. We started with WAS probably 6-7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. And now it's pervasive. We've come to rely on WAS as a network enabler. It gives us that extra throughput, bandwidth, just a little bit more flexibility in our network links to deliver apps efficiently. We had WAS out there, and again, the other team, those guys that are responsible for Citrix and servers, they go ahead and come up with this idea of, let's go ahead and virtualize everything and throw it out there without talking to us on the network team. So we do that, and they roll out Citrix, and the way they had Citrix configured at the time was using some type of encryption that was not compatible with WAS. WAS could do ICA, but it could only do raw ICA that wasn't encrypted. So a big problem for us is everyone's expecting the network guys to be the heroes and accelerate the traffic. Hey, why is our Citrix sessions not getting that LAN-like experience like everything else? Through some trial and error, we found out, oh, well, it's encrypted. Can you go ahead and change that? No, of course, we're not changing anything. Network guys fix it. So I had to go to Cisco and say, look, you guys are partnered at the hip here. I've got a problem. So Citrix and you guys are saying, let's do this on UCS and let's accelerate it, but I can't accelerate it. It's encrypted. What are we going to do here? I've got WAS deployed everywhere. I've got Citrix telling me to buy a bunch of repeaters. I don't want to do that. So Cisco, very quick to respond and basically get the partnership and the teams together and come out with the Citrix Application Optimizer, which was the thing that saved my job and saved our employees' user experience, where we can now accelerate that encrypted Citrix traffic. Effectively, a WAS box works exactly like a Citrix repeater now. So that was the solution. So problem, big WAN, latency, solution, Cisco WAS, Citrix AO. The Citrix AO was available in 5.0. 5.1, it got a lot better because now we support multi-stream ICA. So we can put all this stuff in channels and really optimize and leverage QoS and RSVP and offer that LAN-like experience. And WAS has worked out tremendously well for us. Again, it's at every site. It's an expectation. We don't do a site without WAS. It really does give us that extra bit. The one other tech bit Justin reminded me on, we did test in our lab, and it's very true. If you have a T1, technically, you could do, I know what sites have T1 still. Technically, say you could have 14 people doing a 40K session of Citrix through a T1. You turn on the WAS, ICA, AO, it doubles. Honest to God, we've seen it, we've tested it, and we do have one site not too far away from the data center in Ithaca. There are about 100 users, and we've got a WAS box up there, and the WAS box had a problem. We had to take it out of service, and we got just P4 ticket after P4 ticket. Citrix is slow, it's not working, you got to fix the network again. And it was because the WAS box broke. So we know very well that WAS is helping deliver these applications optimally. Just, oh, sorry.
Sorry, just a question. So what is the physical appliance which you have put on top of that? It's a module which for Citrix it does a...
Can you start over? I missed the beginning. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so WAS is a physical appliance which you have put on top of that. It's a module for Citrix which you have purchased from Cisco. Or...
So question is WAS a module or a physical appliance? It's both, really, but WAS is, it's more network layer in its essence. Pardon me, we do use WAS appliances. They sit in front or behind of the WAN router, in front of the LAN switch, and we redirect traffic to it. The Citrix AO is just part of WAS now, so it's an option. It's enabled by default, actually, and it's just one of the, it's like a Microsoft Outlook optimizer, CIFS optimizer, print optimizer. There's a couple specific ones in there. It's just built into the code, and it is enabled by default. There is a reason why you might want to disable it. At least there was prior to 5.0. What we found with encrypted Citrix traffic, WAS was making it bigger because we're redirecting the traffic to the WAS box. It's already encrypted by Citrix, and the WAS box is getting it, and it was throwing headers on top of it, and it couldn't do anything with the encrypted payload, so we were actually increasing Citrix traffic. Not a good effect. So we did shut it off at one point until 5.0 came out, and they resolved the issues with Citrix, and then it was better again. So I took this screenshot just last week, just to prove one of the sites where WAS, it literally here, it's given us 4 times the amount of WAN back. So very effective, where that's a 10 meg WAN site, okay, 10 meg, call it $1,000 a month versus 4,000. I get 40 megs of WAN, and people notice it, especially with print traffic, with Citrix, with CIFS. It does offer that LAN-like experience. So just some statistics to show that I'm not secretly working for Cisco and selling the product. This stuff really does work. So, one more on that. This is a cool one for me. So 3 years ago, again, no virtual desktop stuff. We weren't doing it yet. And just 3 years' time, we're over 12,000 now. But do I have a pointer? Yes. Check this out right here. So November, January is really when we got the self-registration BYOD rolled out. It's not that impressive there, but when you look at the raw data, what this is telling me is now that BYOD registrations are taking off and accelerating, so is the adoption of virtual desktop. More people want to use it. So this has been pretty flat where, typical campaigns, yeah, I'll try it, I'll use it. But now that people are experimenting and bringing in their own devices, the VDI trend is totally accelerating. So I think we're going to hit that curve where at some point, 12 months, 2 years, I don't know what it is, we'll be able to stop with the managed asset. And we'll come up with some process procedure, stipend to do a pure BYOD program. But as far as the network and the platform, it's really accelerating, and it is due to the BYOD availability.
Would you classify those VDI early adopters as like Mac users?
It started with Macs. Yeah, it definitely started with Macs. And now it's grown into most of my sites. It's like we've got Apple people working there. Everybody has an iPad. Everybody wants to use their Mac and their iPad. And I'll be honest with you, I've done FlexDesk or Citrix from an iPad. I see so many people do it in my office. They bring their little iPad to the meeting. They do their Windows 7 desktop. I can't work on it. It's too small. It's not usable. But some people do. I mean, my VP, my CIO, they'll sit there all day and type on that virtual experience through an iPad. But most people are using AirBooks and tablets. The tablets are becoming really popular too. So that's our virtual desktop story. Steve Jobs liked to do one more thing in every presentation. So I've got one more thing. What I'll show here, it's a quick 4-minute video, much more polished than me presenting to you, and I hate hearing myself talk, so this will be the close. It's a 4-minute video. Cisco came in to, sure.
I hear you talk about how WAS optimizer said Zen desktop.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Do you do a comparative cost analysis between adding the WAS to your network against the bandwidth upgrade?
Question is, did we do a comparative cost analysis of WAS to bandwidth upgrade? That was the question? Absolutely. WAS is much cheaper. When we're talking about the gains here, I think back in T1 days, probably not, to be honest with you. T1 is relatively cheap, at least in the United States, $500 to $600 for a second T1. If you're at small levels of bandwidth, I would say that analysis is probably important because a WAS box, depending on how you size it, may cost you more than adding a second T1 or third T1, but when you're doing 10 meg, 20 meg, 40 meg Ethernet circuits, it's a no-brainer. WAS is much more efficient and allows you to squeeze more out of the network. But it's not just that, right? Because it's not only bandwidth. It helps us mostly with latency because you're keeping a lot of that stuff cached locally. So even though some of the management and control traffic has got to go across a latent WAN, you're getting a lot more of this stuff played back locally. LAN like, under 5, 10 milliseconds. So that's really the benefit. It does give you more bandwidth, but it really helps you with latency. So it offers a LAN-like experience. It sort of mimics it. So it's both, but I'd say do the cost analysis if you're low bandwidths. But okay, so polish video. Oh, I'm sorry. One question.
Your VDI solution. You know about corporate software, your assets. You're not publishing anything to your BYOD, so it has to come to VDI.
For BYOD, yeah, they'll go into the FlexDesk solution, and they get us. There are many more. There's in Quintiles. There's about 110,000 applications that are scripted. We're trying to shrink that down to like 10. In the virtual desktop environment, we probably have a couple hundred of those available, and that's something that team is working on aggressively, where they're just trying to put more and more of those apps into FlexDesk. That's actually something that's holding up some of our other FlexDesk rollouts, where we can't get the apps built into the system fast enough so users can adopt it because they don't have a specific app. So all those things are kind of working in parallel. Polished video, 4 minutes. Cisco came in. They did a quick take of me and the guy who's from South Africa, now lives in Raleigh, who manages the virtual desktop environment for us. And just it's kind of a high-level recap of everything we just talked about a little bit. So enjoy the video. And I kind of want to see it on big screen myself. If it plays, we had trouble with it. There we go. It's only 4 minutes. One of the things that excites me most is powering the network that's allowing the BYOD transformation. Can you make it faster? Can you make it better? Can you give me more bandwidth? Can you give me more power, Scotty?
So the end user is looking for consistency in terms of the performance of the desktop. And the end user is relying on us to facilitate and deliver that consistency.
Quintiles is the world's largest pharmaceutical contract services organization, and over the 16 years it's grown to one global IT organization that's pretty much centralized.
So with us being a global company, we had two specific challenges with virtual desktops. One was latency, the second one being printing.
We first became interested in WAN acceleration when we were trying to target a small group of users, about 1,000 to 2,000, spread across the globe, remote users, in helping their file transfers and data backups to the data center. We understood that there were efficiencies in having their data protected in the data center, but it was really slow. Cisco at that time was coming out with a product. It was called WAS back then. Cisco, as a trusted advisor, recommended this product would fit the bill. We made a large purchase and we pushed it out to about 40 countries at the time. It's working now. We've got happy employees. They're able to push their data through phone lines at the time, ISDN lines, smaller, high-speed internet links, and we realized that there are some big efficiencies there.
Cisco WAS allows us to deploy our virtual desktop offering globally. So it's one of the only solutions that actually enables us to deploy virtual desktops to Russia, to Australia, to South Africa, where without that technology it's impossible.
There are some things within WAS that have exceeded my own expectations. Print traffic, as an example, I had some statistics pulled where we see 90% gains on print traffic. That blows my mind. I think we're getting a good bang for the buck there.
So one of the key benefits from a business perspective we had was that users were able to complete tasks that were taking minutes up to even hours, now in seconds. So the more work we can do in less amount of time has a positive impact not only on us but also on our customers, where we deliver quicker and help them go quicker to the market.
So Cisco has been a resource and a partner for the company, not just to fix things that are broken, but really to solve our problems.
The user experience improvement that they were seeing was almost unbelievable. So we did get very positive feedback just by switching on WAS for Citrix that the user experience increased significantly.
WAS, no doubt, is helping us accelerate the traffic, be efficient with our WAN. We'll need to continue to make investments as we grow, but I think from a platform perspective, from an architecture perspective, we're prepared to scale. It's exciting for me too, for people to wake up Christmas morning with their new iPads or their new computer, bring it into the office and get access to just about everything they need access to give them access to their email, to give them access to their desktop in the data center. IT still has a cool factor where we can deliver these things. We're enabling 28,000 employees to use whatever device they want to use, and I think that's cool. Pretty fun. I enjoy that. That's all I got. So thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it.